If you feel exhausted by the demands of the world, if the constant struggle for survival and success has left you feeling fragile and broken, if you have ever fantasized about simply stopping, retreating, and letting the universe take care of you, then this message is a lifeline. There is an ancient secret championed by the great 11th century sage Al-Ghazali that doesn't just offer you rest, it offers you an entirely new and inexhaustible source of strength. This is an invitation to step into a different frame of reality. We live in an age of profound exhaustion. It's more than just physical tiredness. It's a psychic weariness, a soul weariness, a psychic friction born from the relentless pace of modern life. We are bombarded by the attention economy, which mines our focus for profit, leaving us scattered and drained. We suffer from decision fatigue, faced with 1,000 trivial choices a day, from what to watch to what to believe. We are haunted by a quiet but persistent sense of purposelessness, a feeling of being a cog in a machine we don't understand, running faster and faster on a treadmill that leads nowhere. In response to this spiritual burnout, a seductive idea has taken hold in our culture. It whispers that the solution is to stop, to let go, to surrender control, and to simply receive. It is the gospel of passive acceptance. It tells us to protect our energy, to set boundaries, not as healthy limits, but as high walls, and to wait for the universe to deliver our needs to our doorstep. We are encouraged to see ourselves as fragile, as needing to be handled with care, as a vessel waiting to be filled. We are, in essence, taught to identify with the broken wing. But what if this is a beautiful, well-intentioned, yet profound spiritual mistake? What if this path, while offering temporary relief, ultimately leads to a deeper state of powerlessness? The great masters of the human heart, like Al-Ghazali, whom the West would come to know as Al-Ghazali, understood this danger intimately. They knew that the human spirit is not designed for perpetual reception, but for active transmission. They knew that true strength is not something we hoard, but something that is generated through us in the very act of giving it away. Today, we will journey back in time to a dusty roadside near Mecca, where two of the greatest mystics of their age met and engaged in a conversation that holds the key to curing our modern malaise. Through their story, a simple parable of two birds in the desert, Al-Ghazali illuminates a fork in the road for every human soul. It is a choice we all face, whether we realize it or not, the choice between the comfort of the broken wing and the power of the strong one. This is not a lesson in mere endurance. It is the revelation of a hidden engine of purpose and vitality that lies dormant within you, waiting for the right question to awaken it. So, let go of the world for a moment, quiet your weary mind, and let us listen to a conversation that has the power to change not just how you feel, but who you are. Our story begins with two spiritual giants of the early Sufi tradition, Shaqiq of Balkh and Ibrahim ibn Adham. They were contemporaries, men who had turned away from the allure of worldly success to seek a treasure of a different kind. One day, their paths crossed in the holy city of Mecca, a place of pilgrimage and profound spiritual intensity. Ibrahim ibn Adham, once a prince who had famously renounced his throne for a life of ascetic devotion, saw his friend Shaqiq living in a state of deep seclusion. Shaqiq had withdrawn from the world, spending his days and nights in meditation and prayer, not engaging in any trade or labor. He was the very picture of serene trust, a man who had seemingly untethered himself from the anxieties of earthly existence.
Ibrahim, a man whose wisdom was as practical as it was profound, was moved by a deep curiosity. He approached his friend not with judgment, but with a genuine desire to understand his inner state. He asked him a simple, direct question. "O Shakik, what is it that brought you to this state of being? What insight led you to abandon all worldly means and live in this way?" Shakik's face lit up, for he was about to share the story of his great epiphany, the moment of revelation that had liberated him. "One day," he began, his voice filled with the quiet reverence of the memory, "I was traveling through the desert. In a barren, desolate place, I saw a bird lying on the ground. Its wings were broken, and it was utterly helpless. I thought to myself, I will sit here and watch. I must see from where the provision for this creature will come. So I settled myself at a distance and waited." Shakik leaned in, his eyes gleaming. "As I watched, another bird appeared in the sky, strong and healthy. It held a grasshopper in its beak. It flew down, landed beside the crippled bird, and gently placed the food into its open beak. When I saw this, a powerful realization flooded my entire being. I said to my own soul, 'The Almighty, who has made this strong bird a vehicle for the weak one, is surely capable of providing for me wherever I may be.' In that moment, I ceased my striving. I stopped chasing after my livelihood and dedicated myself completely to worship, trusting that he who feeds the bird with a broken wing would surely feed me."
Ibrahim ibn Adham listened to his friend's story with complete, focused attention. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. He honored the sincerity of Shakik's experience. But when Shakik was finished, basking in the certainty of his revelation, Ibrahim looked him in the eye and asked a question so simple, so powerful, it had the force to shatter one reality and build another in its place. He said softly, "And why, my dear Shakik, did you not prefer to be the other bird? Why did you not aspire to be the strong one who carries the food to the bird with the broken wing and thus attain a higher station? Have you not heard the words of our prophet, the light of both worlds, who said, 'The giving hand is superior to the receiving hand'?" This single question is a thunderclap of wisdom that echoes down the centuries and lands directly in the heart of our modern predicament. It doesn't negate Shakik's experience of the divine's providence, but it reframes it entirely. Ibrahim is saying, yes, God provides for the broken, but he works through the strong. The miracle you witnessed was not just about the one who received. It was equally, if not more so, about the one who gave. You saw two roles in the drama, and you chose to identify with the patient, not the healer. You chose to be the effect, not the cause. This is the spirituality of the strong wing. It is a worldview founded on agency, purpose, and active participation in the flow of divine grace. It understands that human beings are not meant to be mere consumers of divine mercy, but active conduits of it. Our purpose is not to sit with our mouths open, waiting to be fed, but to strengthen our own wings so that we can fly, find nourishment, and then share it with those who cannot. The effect on Shakik was immediate and total. The story tells us that upon hearing these words, he understood instantly. The entire foundation of his spiritual practice crumbled, revealing a deeper, more robust foundation beneath. He stepped forward, took Ibrahim ibn Adham's hand, and kissed it. "O Abu Ishaq," using Ibrahim's title of respect, "you are our master." In that moment,
The student had surpassed the teacher not through a more profound vision, but through a more empowering interpretation of the same vision. This parable became a cornerstone of Al-Ghazali's teachings on the true nature of trust in the divine. Al-Ghazali was a synthesizer, a master at reconciling the apparent paradoxes of the spiritual path. He saw the danger in Shakik's initial position, what he called a deception of the ego. It seems humble to cast oneself as the helpless recipient, but Al-Ghazali knew that it could be a mask for simple laziness, a justification for abdicating one's responsibility to oneself and to the world. He taught that true, profound trust, the concept known in Sufism as tawakkul, is not the opposite of effort. It is the spiritual state in which one performs effort. The two are not mutually exclusive, they are two wings of the same bird. True trust is not about sitting still and waiting for food to appear. True trust is embodied by the strong bird. Think about it. The strong bird does not know it will find a grasshopper. It has no guarantee of success. It faces the vast, unpredictable desert every time it takes flight. It acts in faith. It engages its God-given abilities, its sight, its strength, its wings, and trusts that its effort, when aligned with the flow of reality, will bear fruit. It then completes the circle of trust by sharing that fruit, becoming an agent of the very providence it relies on. This, for Al-Ghazali, is the pinnacle of human spiritual achievement. To act with the full force of one's being while being completely detached from the fruits of that action, knowing that the outcome is ultimately not in our hands. This is the secret of inexhaustible strength. It is action without anxiety. It is effort without ego.
This ancient Sufi dialogue doesn't exist in a vacuum. It speaks to a perennial question that has been asked by the wisest minds of every culture. What is the proper way for a human being to live in a world we cannot control? The conversation between Shakik and Ibrahim finds stunning parallels in the great philosophical traditions of both East and West. Consider the Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome, like Seneca, Epictetus, and the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. The cornerstone of their philosophy was the dichotomy of control. They taught that the key to a tranquil and virtuous life was to clearly distinguish between what is in our power and what is not. Our judgments, our intentions, our actions, these are up to us. Everything else, our health, our reputation, the actions of others, the outcome of our efforts, is not. Shakik, in his initial state, had become so mesmerized by what is not in our power, the ultimate source of our provision, that he abdicated responsibility for what is in his power, his own effort and action. He collapsed the dichotomy. Ibrahim, on the other hand, is the perfect Stoic sage in this moment. His question redirects Shakik's focus back to what he can control, his own choice of identity. You cannot control whether God provides, but you can choose to be the kind of person through whom God provides. You can choose to exercise your own wings. Ibrahim's path is one of active virtue, of engaging with the world not to control it, but to express the highest part of our nature within it. Now let us leap forward to the 20th century Vienna, to the grim barracks of a Nazi concentration camp. There, the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, stripped of everything he held dear, made a discovery that would form the basis of his logotherapy. He observed that the prisoners who had the greatest chance of survival were not necessarily the physically strongest, but those who held on to a sense of meaning, a purpose that pointed beyond their immediate suffering. He famously wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way."
Frankl argued that the primary drive in human beings is not the pursuit of pleasure, as Freud believed, or the pursuit of power, as Adler believed, but the pursuit of meaning. And this meaning, he said, is most often found by dedicating ourselves to a cause greater than ourselves, or to a person other than ourselves. This is the very essence of Ibrahim ibn Adham's wisdom. The path of the broken wing is a path devoid of meaning beyond one's own survival and comfort. It is a closed loop. The path of the strong wing is inherently meaningful because it is about contribution, about service, about connecting oneself to the well-being of another. The exhaustion of modern life is often a symptom of a deep meaning deficit. We are tired not because we are doing too much, but because we are doing too much that feels like it means too little. Ibrahim's challenge is an existential one. Choose the path of meaning, for in that choice lies your salvation from despair. Even further east, in the philosophy of Taoism, we find another layer of understanding. The Taoist concept of Wu Wei is often translated as effortless action or non-doing. This can be easily misunderstood as passivity, much like Shakik's initial state, but a deeper understanding reveals it to be action that is in perfect harmony with the natural flow of the universe, the Tao. It is swimming with the current, not against it.
The strong bird can be seen as a perfect embodiment of Wu Wei. It does not struggle against its own nature. It fulfills it. It flies because it is a creature of the air. It hunts because that is its purpose. Its giving is not a strained moralistic act born of ego-driven charity. It is a natural, spontaneous overflow of its own vitality. It acts without striving, without resistance, in a state of perfect alignment. This is the state Al-Ghazali points to, an active life where our will is so aligned with the divine will that our actions feel less like our own and more like the universe acting through us. This is where the greatest effort becomes the greatest ease. The profound wisdom of these ancient masters is not just beautiful poetry or abstract philosophy. In recent decades, the fields of neuroscience and psychology have begun to map the biological hardware that proves the truth of this spiritual software. The choice between the broken wing and the strong wing is a choice between two fundamentally different neural pathways in the brain. As we discussed, Martin Seligman's work on learned helplessness showed that a passive response to stress and adversity creates a feedback loop of despair. Brain imaging has shown that this state is associated with reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, the seat of our executive function, our willpower, and our ability to plan and act. It literally shuts down the parts of our brain associated with agency. Conversely, taking purposeful action, even on a small scale, does the opposite. It activates the prefrontal cortex and releases neurotransmitters like dopamine, which is linked to motivation and reward, and serotonin, which regulates mood. Ibrahim's wisdom is, in effect, a form of ancient cognitive behavioral therapy. He is telling Shakik to break the cycle of passivity by changing his cognitive frame, his identity, which will in turn change his behavior, which will then rewire his brain for strength instead of helplessness. When you see yourself as the strong bird, you start acting like the strong bird, and your brain chemistry changes to support that new reality. Furthermore, a wealth of research has confirmed the profound psychological and physiological benefits of altruism, a phenomenon sometimes called the helper's high. When we engage in acts of kindness and service, our brains release oxytocin, the love hormone that fosters social bonds and reduces stress. We experience a decrease in cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Studies have shown that people who regularly volunteer or engage in acts of service report higher levels of happiness, greater life satisfaction, and even live longer.
The Prophet's statement that the giving hand is superior is not just a moral declaration, it is a statement of profound psychological and biological fact. The state of the giver is inherently more joyful, more resilient, and more vital than the state of the receiver. To be the strong wing is to be plugged into a source of well-being that is simply unavailable to the one who only waits to be fed. The cure for our modern exhaustion, anxiety, and depression may not be found in more elaborate forms of self-care and retreat, but in the simple, radical act of turning our attention outward and finding someone to help. Now, let us bring this from the desert of history into the landscape of your own inner world. Let this not be just a story you have heard, but a mirror in which you see yourself. Take a moment to be still. Settle into your body and take a long, slow breath. As you exhale, let go of the noise of the day and arrive fully in this present moment. First, I want you to connect, with honesty and without judgment, to the bird with the broken wing inside of you. There is a part of all of us that feels this way. It is the part that is tired, overwhelmed, and feels like it cannot fly on its own. It is the part that secretly wishes to be rescued, to be taken care of, to have its needs met without any further struggle. Acknowledge this part of yourself. See it. Feel its exhaustion, and offer it compassion. There is no shame in this feeling. It is a human response to the burdens of life. Just be with it for a moment.
Now, take another deep breath. And as you exhale, I want you to gently shift your awareness. I want you to search within you for the other bird, the strong one. It is there. It may be small, it may feel weak, its wings may feel out of practice, but it is there. This is the part of you that has something, however small, to give. It is your capacity for a kind word. It is your ability to listen. It is the knowledge you possess that could help someone else. It is the strength in your hands that could perform a small act of service. It is the love in your heart that can be offered without expectation. Connect with that feeling, that flicker of generative power. It is not about being perfect or having all the answers. The strong bird was not a celestial angel. It was just another bird, doing what it was made to do. Your strength is not measured by the size of the offering, but by the intention of the heart. Even a single grasshopper is a feast for a starving creature. Now, for this final moment of reflection, ask yourself this question. In my life, today, tomorrow, this week, how can I choose to be the strong bird? Forget about solving all your own problems for a moment. Forget about waiting for your own perfect conditions. Identify one small, concrete way you can be a source of provision for someone else. Perhaps it is sending a message to a friend you know is struggling. Perhaps it is taking 5 minutes to truly listen to a family member without interrupting. Perhaps it is sharing a skill you have with a colleague. Perhaps it is donating a small amount of money or time to a cause you believe in. Perhaps it is simply offering a genuine smile to a stranger. Find that one small act. See it in your mind's eye. Feel the shift in your own being as you move from the identity of one who needs to the identity of one who provides. Feel the quiet power that comes with that shift. This is not another task to add to your to-do list. This is your medicine. This is the beginning of the path out of exhaustion. The wisdom of Al-Ghazali, channeled through this timeless story, offers us a radical prescription for the spiritual sickness of our age. We are burned out not from overgiving,
but from a life of striving that is disconnected from a sense of higher purpose. The ego's endless project of self-preservation, self-improvement, and self-gratification is a black hole of energy. It is a hunger that can never be filled. It is exhausting precisely because it is a closed system, feeding only on itself. The path of the strong wing breaks us out of this prison. It transforms our life from a problem to be solved into a gift to be offered. It teaches us that the energy we seek is not found in withdrawal, but in connection, not in receiving, but in giving, not in protecting ourselves, but in expressing our divine purpose, which is always, in some way, to be of service. This is the great paradox. The moment you stop worrying about who will feed you and start focusing on who you can feed, your own hunger begins to disappear. A new and more powerful source of nourishment becomes available to you. You begin to draw your strength not from your own limited reserves, but from the infinite flow of life itself, which moves through you whenever you act as its agent. So the choice is yours, as it was for Shakik on that road to Mecca. You can look at the world and see only evidence of your own brokenness, your own need. Or you can look at the very same world and see a profound opportunity to use the strength you have right now in this moment. The question that life asks of you is not, how will I survive? It is, to whom will I be a gift? In your answer lies the secret to moving from a life of exhausting fragility to one of inexhaustible strength. Choose to be the giving hand. Choose to be the strong wing. Choose to fly.